sequential artist workshop gathering to talk about and learn some stuff in Procreate. So we're going to do this every other weekend. Not weekend, it's not the weekend, it's the Wednesday. Every other Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. And we're going to go through step by step how to make a comic in Procreate. And once we do a basic comic like that, then we'll go into doing more comic stuff in Procreate, adding color and shading and how to use Procreate with some other apps and stuff like that. So I guess without further ado, I can switch to my iPad and show you what we're going to be doing, and we can get started. What I want you to do is I want you to work with me. So I want you to have your iPad out with Procreate, and we're going to go through and do some stuff together. So that way, if you have questions, you can ask them as we go, and you might run into stuff like that you do that didn't work the same way as what you thought I did, and we can, go through that together. So this is our little outline. I think everyone should see my iPad now, like pinned big. I figured out how to pin for everybody. So if you can't, you can just click on it and click pin, but I think you should all see it large. So this is my little outline for our class. So today we're going to create thumbnails. We're going to create panels with a grid, and we're going to set up layers for making a black and white comic. Okay, so this is a preview of my document. I just want to show you a little thing in Procreate. When you're looking in your files here, your documents, if you want to zoom in on one, you pinch out on it, and that shows you it without opening it, so you can see what it is better than the little thumbnail. Pinch in and it goes back. And you can pinch out and then swipe back and forth to go through your files and see what you have. And then when you get to the one that you want to work in, you double tap and it opens in Procreate. So that's a way sometimes if you're having trouble looking at all those little thumbnails and figuring out, which one is what, you can scroll through them while you're zoomed in. All right, so this is a Procreate document that I created, and we're going to draw some little boxes like that to make we're going to then put some thumbnails in them. So this is just some thumbnails that I used on something I made. But what I want you to do is go back and start in your gallery. And we're going to go to the upper right corner and click the plus sign. And can you see okay, everyone? Say no if you can't, or type no in the chat. So this is what comes up, and yours may be a little different. I added a couple things. What comes up is the kind of canvases, and that's what Procreate calls a document, a canvas, like for painting. The size of documents that we have. And when we get to our next part, we're going to create one to a specific size. But for right now, just pick one. We're going to make some thumbnails. So it doesn't really matter what size. I'm going to pick paper 8.5 by 11. So that opens up a document. And it opens it up full. I don't like that. I like mine to be a little smaller than the full screen so I can see the edges of it. And for my thumbnails, I usually turn my page so that it's portrait mode, but you can draw thumbnails however you want. So we have this document here, and what we want to make is a bunch of squares or rectangles, depending what shape your comic's going to be. Now, I don't worry at this stage if I'm getting it exactly the same shape as what my real pages are going to be. I just think, is it a rectangle or is it a square? So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the upper left corner and click on the wrench tool. And then if it's not already selected, click Canvas. Okay, so these are things that you can do with your Canvas, the whole document. All we're going to do here is click Drawing Guide to turn that on. Then when you click back on your document, you'll have this grid of squares on the page, and that can help you draw rectangles or squares. So what I want to do is create a rectangular.
Donna?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't get the step after opening to actions, and then I'm lost.
Okay, okay, so we'll look at it again. You go into actions with the wrench, then you click on Canvas.
Ah, okay.
And then under Canvas, you have a couple down.
Yeah. Thank you. That was it. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. So all we did was turn on a grid. I'm going to show you two ways you can use this grid. One is just to eyeball things. So I'm going to pick, well, I'm already picked. My brush I use the most is dry ink, so it's usually picked in my Procreate. I made my own folder with the brushes I use a lot, but dry ink is in the inking folder for brushes, which has a little pen nib as the icon. If you look at my brushes, you'll see a lot of them just have this swoopy, like Procreate logo. Those are folders that I made. And inside those folders, the brushes with that swoopy thing are brushes that I made or made a copy of and put in here. When you go into the original brushes from Procreate, they have a little icon like this A for calligraphy or pen nib for inking. And the brushes themselves, like this Mercury one, they have no little logo, and that means it's an original Procreate brush. So go into inking and pick a brush. I'm going to use the one that I have selected, which is the dry ink, because I use that a lot. And we're going to just go on our grid and we're going to draw a rectangle. So watch me do it before you do it. I'm going to start at one square and I'm just going to make it up as I go. If you wanted to, you could put some dots where the corners of your rectangle is going to be, so you can see the size it's going to be first, and makes it a little bit easier to draw it. Now I'm going to draw, and I'm not going to go very slowly because Procreate's going to fix it. So I'm going to just go like that, not worry if it's wiggly. When I get back to my first dot, I hold down my pencil till the lines get straight. Now that's still not a perfect rectangle, but it has all straight lines. Sometimes I leave my panels like that because I like them wonky, but you can go and click on the top. It says Edit Shape, and you can click Rectangle. And I don't know if I missed that or not. So I'm going to draw another one so I can show you again. Okay. Edit Shape is up here in the center of the top. And now that I clicked Edit Shape, I can see this already is a rectangle, but I made it too small. I want it to be bigger, and I want it to line up with my guideline. So I can drag these blue dots and change the shape. So I like that one. So I'm just going to click on the page, and now it's not a shape anymore. It's just part of my drawing. Okay, I'm going to erase this one because I didn't like how it came out. And so I have a rectangle. So go ahead and draw a rectangle or a square if you want to do Instagram, a shape for Instagram. Go ahead and draw one on your canvas. And remember, just turn on your drawing grid and then pick your pen, and then using the drawing guide points, go from corner to corner. Hold the pencil down when you get back to the first corner, and the lines will straighten out. And then you can hit Edit Shape and see if it's a rectangle. If it's a quadrilateral or not quite a rectangle, you can click on rectangle to straighten it out. Taking mine back off because I want us to just have one. we have one rectangle drawn.
I have another problem, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No, don't apologize.
My brush is vanishing, it becomes white. And then I turn on black again, but then it's a circle and it won't draw a line.
Okay, it won't draw anything, not even one line.
No.
Can you put your camera on your iPad so we can you hold it up to the?
I tried.
Drawing a white line?
Excuse me?
Is it drawing a white line? Did it pick up the color of the paper?
It
Let's
could
see.
be that it is a white line.
Yeah, look in the upper right corner of your screen. I saw
Yes.
that.
Yeah, now
Okay.
it has a black line.
Yeah, if you look in the upper right corner of
Yes.
your screen, there's
Yes.
the color thing.
Yes.
If that is white, then it'll draw a white line. Also, there's also something that is set in the Procreate, and it works in other apps too. And that is, see here, my pencil or pen brush is checked. If I tap my pencil twice, it switches to eraser. And if I tap my
Okay.
pencil twice, it switches back to the brush. And so that might have been something that happened to you.
Yeah.
If it happens again, I'll show you guys how to turn that off. But for
Thank
now,
you.
let's get a rectangle. Yeah.
Thanks. I don't have an Apple Pencil at the moment.
Yeah, I don't know if anything like that works with the Logitech. You have the Logitech,
No,
right?
this is even an older. It's from Amazon for 15
Oh, okay.
euros.
Okay, I don't
but-
know if that works.
Yeah, but I have a black line again.
You have
Thank
a
you
black
very
line
much.
now, good. Okay.
Yeah.
So we get a rectangle drawn, and look in your layers. You should have a background color, which defaults to white. So that's a layer that's always there in all your files. And then you'll have another layer that says layer 1. And if you click the check, it goes away. That's the rectangle that we just drew. Okay, now we want to make a bunch of rectangles on this page so we can draw thumbnails. So what I do is you go into the layers, you see that layer 1. I'm not going to worry about the name of it yet because we're going to do a bunch of stuff with the layers, and then we're going to merge them all together, and then we can change the name if we want. But right now I'm going to slide to the left with my finger or my stylus, and I'm going to see a little menu that says lock, duplicate, clear. I'm going to duplicate that layer. So now I have 2 of them. It still looks like one in my document because they're exactly the same. It just made another one right on top of it. So I'm going to move it now, and I'm going to click this arrow in the upper left menu, and I'm going to go down to the bottom, and there's this thing called snapping.
But you're not sharing your screen, I think.
You don't see me?
No.
No, we see you, Donna,
We
but
can-
that the iPad
we can see
stops
you.
being pinned.
Yeah.
Oh my
Just-
God.
Just need to pin, just pin the iPad.
Yeah,
We can
yeah.
see you.
Just a second. It got small because,
Okay.
okay. Does that work?
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay, good, because bigger is better, yeah. So for this, so we have the 2 layers, and the new one selected automatically when you duplicate it. We're going to click on the arrow. We're going to move this around. But first I want to look at snapping because I want it to stay exactly lined up. So usually I do not use this magnetics setting. I leave snapping on. I never changed the distance and velocity in mine. I usually leave snapping on because I like how it works, but you can play with turning that on and off. But when I want to make rectangles and just move it and keep it lined up with the previous one, I turn magnetics on. Now I can just drag on this. Now you want to make sure uniform is clicked in this section because you don't want to distort it or warp it or anything. We just want to move it. And so now when I move it, I can move it exactly horizontally. And you can see if I go off the horizontal, it snaps and shows me these lines. So it's real easy to move it horizontally. So I'm going to move it so I have two together. And then I'm going to turn off my movement thing. Okay. Everyone have two rectangles now? So what I'm going to do now is go into my layers again, and I'm going to merge these two layers so it becomes one layer with two rectangles. And you do that by just putting your thumb on one and your finger on the other one, and you pinch them together, and it turns into one layer. Now I can duplicate that. And I've duplicated a layer with two. I can go into my move again. Magnetics will stay checked until I turned it off. And I can move this over horizontally or vertically. And now I have 4 squares. And then I can merge those. I can move them around. I can resize the whole thing together. I can duplicate this and have 8, 16, and so forth. So you can keep duplicating and merging. Duplicate, move, merge, until you have a page with as many little rectangles as you want for your thumbnails. So that's what I do first when I'm starting a comic. And I make this, I make this thing. Now, once you make one, you can save it. You don't have to make it from scratch every time. You just make a copy of it. You just open this up and, you know, start over drawing in it. You don't have to start from scratch every time. So I have one that I made that I put in a folder of stuff. And when I want to start a new comic, I go in and I make a copy. I duplicate my thumbnails template and I move it where I want it on my iPad, you know, usually right at the beginning of the gallery, so it's there, and then I use it. So all I do now is when I have as many as I want, so I'll duplicate, move, and merge one more time. Now I have a whole page full of little squares. So I'll go to my layers palette and add one more layer. And now this is just thumbnails, so I don't care which layer is on top or anything like that. And I'll use this layer. See what I did? I accidentally clicked to my eraser. So that's why it wasn't drawing. I'll use this layer to draw my little characters. And I do really, really like sloppy thumbnails. Now these would be like whole page pictures because each of these will be a page. So say I wanted to make, you know, a 6-panel comic on one page, I would draw 6 little boxes inside it. And I don't worry about those being tidy and everything. Now, here's the thing. These might be too small for you. You might need to make, you know, make only 4 in a page or something so you can make your thumbnails the way you're complicated. If I make mine too big, I end up drawing the whole comic. So like if I wanted a girl standing on top of a mountain for my thumbnail, I just do something like that, you know. And if there's clouds and a bird, I do them really, really rough because otherwise I end up just drawing the comic. I'm not that great at thumbnailing. Like some comics can do these thumbnails and they're like beautiful and they have all this detail in it. And when they remake their page, it looks exactly like that, almost like they drew. I can't do that. So I make mine tiny. So on purpose, I can't do anything with them besides draw really rough idea of I want 3 tall panels and then, you know, maybe there's a mountain that someone's climbing the mountain and gets higher and higher in each panel or something like that. So I do it really, really tiny. So again, you could have just made 4 rectangles on your page and had more room for panel, thumbnails. Now, like say I'm making a comic with 100 pages and I only have, what is it, 16 on here. If I wanted to draw more thumbnails in the same file, I could turn off this layer, add another layer, and draw more thumbnails. So this is like thumbnail layer 2. And I could go back and forth before them. So you don't need to have like a giant piece of paper to draw all those thumbnails in one document. You can draw, the thumbnails for chapter 1 on one layer, the thumbnails for chapter 2 on another layer, and so forth. Any questions about the thumbnail stuff?
I just want to ask you, when you put the 2 layers together, do you get something called a new group?
No, that's a different thing. So let me take my layer, turn off everything except my squares. So I'm going to duplicate my squares layer so it's twice. When I pinch them together, it just turns into one layer. There's not 2 there anymore. Okay, so that's merging them. Now it's one layer. There is a thing that you can group layers as well, and I use this feature a lot. So say I've picked layer 3, which is my thumbnails for chapter 2, and I also pick layer 2, which is my thumbnails for chapter 1. Now I can rename those. So if I click on layer 3, I can rename it to, you can type or write whatever, chapter 2, and I can rename layer 2. When you click on the layer a second time, this menu pops up and rename is at the top, and you can type or write if you have the Apple Pencil set up for writing.
Somehow mine just went immediately when I squeezed them together into a new group, not just.
That's very weird. This is how it should work. I'm going to leave that name because I don't care. I don't always name my layers because I actually group them. So if you swipe on one layer and then swipe on a second layer, or you can choose as many layers you want by selecting one and then swiping right. And then they highlight, which means they're selected. Right now, I just want 2 and 3, and I'm going to group them. And now I can call my group thumbnails. And I can open and close this, and I can hide and show the whole group at once. I've never seen it create a group when you pinch it. So that's a group is different than merging. So I'm not really sure how that happened.
The group happened because
yeah, Susan put something in the chat, which is true. If you
push it up, it makes a group rather
than
and
you yes, and there's a thing called merge down. So if you select the layer, and
it's subtle,
it's
actually.
merged down, so there's a lot of little things in there. There's a lot of little features in there that are there to use. And Susan said my fingers are sloppy. I have trouble pinching sometimes, but usually when I'm merging layers, I'm merging a bunch, not just 2. But the pinching is, if it's challenging, yes, you can click on the layer, and then way down here it says merge down, and it will make that layer and the layer below it into one layer, what I just did. And then remember, if you do anything with the layers and you mess it up, you can always double click to undo things, triple click to redo them. So I double clicked a couple of times, I undid my merging layers and so forth. So remember that, keep those double finger for a 2-click handy if you mess up anything. That's one of the best things about working digitally is you have undo. Okay, that's all I have for thumbnails. Okay. So we're going to go back to our gallery. Now, So our list for today was create thumbnails. So that's what I do. And I find it super helpful, especially when I'm doing something like that's going to be a book or a booklet or have multiple pages and stuff, because it just saves me. It's to me, it's the hardest part, even though I just draw these little dorky things, because I have to think of the organization of it. For me, creating the thumbnails is part of the writing process of making the comic. And I'll go back and forth between working on my thumbnails and having a text document open where I write down what's going to happen in each page, and maybe some dialogue or captions. I go back and forth between those two a lot. Some people can write a whole script first and then go and do their thumbnails. And some people write the whole thing in thumbnails, and so you'll have to play and see what works for you. So that's thumbnails. Now we're gonna create some panels with the grid and add some layers to it for making a comic. So I asked you to get a grid that's pre-made for comics, and it comes as a download. So I downloaded it on my iPad. So I'm going to go into my import here. I'm on my thing where I would create a new file. But right now I want to get that grid, and it's downloaded on my iPad. So I'm going to go to import. And what happens is it brings up this file thing like you would have on a Mac or anything. And it has a list of the files and, list of your folders basically. And so downloads I added to favorites. I don't know if it was there or automatically, but downloads should be on there. And then there's other things like if you saved a file in Dropbox or Google Drive or something, you can connect those to this. But this was in oops, it wasn't in downloads. Oh no, I don't know where it is. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to type in template and search for it on my iCloud drive and see what I have a lot of templates, but you probably won't. And there's the comic layout templates that I got from that website from Gumroad, I think, or one of those places, that one I linked to you for. And it includes some graphics that are probably JPEGs, but it doesn't say that show you a file extension, and it includes the Procreate file. So I'm going to click the Procreate file, and I just imported that onto my iPad and it opened it up. So this is what's in that file I told you to get. It has several layers in it. If you click and look at the layers, there's a group called layouts, and inside that there's a layer that's called strip for making horizontal comics. There's a layer for page for making vertical comics, and there's a layer called golden ratio. That's just if you know what the golden ratio is, it's a geometric way to help you place things on the page in a pleasing way. We're not going to bother with that, so we're going to click golden ratio and turn it off. You can decide if you want to work horizontally or vertically. I'm working vertically, so I'm going to turn off the strip layer, and I just have the page portrait layer on. So I'm going to close those. I'm going to make a new layer to draw on, and I'm going to drag it below. I always leave my grids and layouts at the very top of my layer pile, so they're easy to find if I want to use them later, and if I want to turn them on and off while I'm drawing and see if I want to change anything. I leave it in the document even after I draw my panels, because sometime later I might decide I want to resize my panels, or I might decide I don't really want 4 panels on this page, I want 6. So I just leave the grid in there all the time. In this setup here where they give you 3 layers and you are worried that you might not have enough layers later, you can delete the ones you're not using. So I just deleted the golden ratio, and I'm going to delete the strip because I'm only using the portrait one. So you can delete the ones you're not using if you want. So in a while, after we finish making a comic together, I'm going to show you how to use another app to make your own custom grids. But I want to stick just in Procreate for a while till we get all the way through the basics, before I start introducing other tools that you can use with Procreate.
Can you just say the name of that download? Because I actually downloaded it, but I didn't import it. So now I have to find it.
Yeah, okay. I just searched for templates, and when I went to import, it was in a, it probably is a zip.
What was the
Yeah,
site called?
I don't know what the site was. Just a
It
second.
starts
though.
with GW.
Yes,
Yeah,
Georg von
GW template.
Westphalen.
Yeah.
Yes, that's his name.
His name is George, I think. And
George
it's
von Westphalen.
yeah, comic
GVW.
comic underscore layout underscore templates is the name of the zip or the folder. If it's a zip file,
Okay.
you have to click on it once to open it. Find it?
Donna, I think the link is at the bottom of the template. If you see your template, where you have the squares, the bottom right says, gives the website link.
And if you don't have it now, it's okay. We're just going to basically trace some shapes on it. I'm just, this is set up so that you can have consistency in your comics. Like if you want to have a 4-panel comic and always have the same size on every page, or 6-panel, or even if you don't have the same things on every page, working with a grid like this or different kind, even if you change the number of panels on each page, working with the grid makes it easier to do your layouts and gives some sort of structure and consistency feeling to your reader when they read your comic, rather than just drawing things all over the place. If you can't find it now and you don't have it now, that's okay. Just follow along and draw any rectangles with me, and you can get it after. I'll help you find it on the network and get it installed. You can just message me and we'll do it together. But for now, I just want to show you what I do to make my things when I put this grid in the back. And now you don't have to use a grid like this at all. You can turn on the drawing guide and use the drawing guide to help you draw your real panels as well, if you don't want to use a grid. I prefer to have a grid for the consistency. It makes it easier for me, but the drawing guide gives you straight lines as well. And let me just show you one more thing with the drawing guide. So I turned it on here, and I'm going to go into edit drawing guide. And I'm using the 2D grid, which is just squares. Now, what's interesting is way on the bottom, there's a thing called grid size, and you can make the squares bigger if you don't want to deal with having all those tiny squares on your grid. You can make your squares bigger and smaller. It's not really precise. Like if you want to make it to have 7.5 squares across a page or something, that's kind of difficult, but see, I have that on, and you can use that if you didn't get the template, or if you don't want to use a template, you can use that drawing guide to help you do panels as well. Okay, so I'm just going to do the same thing I did in the thumbnails. I'm going to use my Inca panels. That's the brush I like. I called it Inca panels. It's called Inca, and it comes with Procreate, but I made a copy of it and called it Inca panels. So I remember that that's the brush I like to use for my panels. And so you can make, different combinations of panels by drawing around 1, 2, or 3 boxes in width or height. And so this gives you some flexibility. I'm just going to make a 4-panel comic on this. So I'm just going to do what we did before. I have a group selected. I can't draw on a group. So I have to go to my layer. Drawing on the wrong layer is something I do a lot. So it is worthwhile looking at what layer you're on before you click on your pen and start drawing. If you have a group selected, Procreate won't let you draw on it. Also, if you have a group, a layer that's finished, if you slide to the left and click that lock, you can lock it so you can't draw on it. So if you have a layer that you finished and you don't want to mess it up, lock it. Yeah, that's one of my things I do a lot. I'm like, oh crap, I put that on the wrong layer. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing we did before, is we're going to pick how big we want our things to be and draw our box around. And this particular pen, it leaves white spots and stuff. So I can quit. So that's just part of this pen, this brush on Procreate. So I can fill them in. I like sloppy panels, so I don't mind doing stuff like that. Other brushes will give you neater things. And so I just draw my panels on this. And so I've got a layout layer and a layer, which I haven't renamed or anything, that will be my panels. And I can use these to make all the same, or I can make, whoops. If you pick the pencil up, it doesn't keep making the shape. You see how sloppy you can draw that, and it changes it into a nice rectangle, quadrilateral if I didn't get them straight enough. It does this with other shapes as well. So you can do it with a line and get a straight line. If you touch your finger down, when you're holding the pencil down, it will make it snap to, I don't know what it is, 15 degrees. So you can get really vertical and horizontal lines very easily. It can do it with ellipses. And if you go into edit shape, you can make it a perfect circle. You can also make it a perfect circle by putting a finger down while you still have the pencil held down. So you can do a lot of things with getting really nice geometric shapes in Procreate by drawing something and holding the pencil down until it becomes that nice shape. So yeah, you can do like a curve. And sometimes it's not sure what you wanted to do. So if you're trying to draw this nice curvy shape and you forget to pick your pencil up, it turns it into a crazy geometric thing. So that's fun to play with. Just draw some stuff and hold the pencil down when you finish it, and you can make the shapes. Okay, so I'm going to duplicate this like we did before. I'm going to move it so the other side. And now I don't want to have, say I don't want these to be exactly the same. In this tool for transforming or changing things, I can flip it vertically. So now my panels are not lined straight up. This is not necessarily a good layout because you might not know where to go next, whatever, but you can flip things around and rotate them. And I can rotate this around, I can flip it horizontally and vertically. So you can do that to change them. Say if you created the same panel and moved it around, you didn't want it to look all exactly the same. You could rotate some 90 degrees or flip some vertically, and that makes them look a little different, even though you really just duplicated the same shape. So that's what I do for my panels. And then I create some more layers. So let's merge my two layers. So I have one layer and I'm going to rename it panels. Okay, now I'm going to show you what other layers to put in a file with this. So, and you can draw, you know, obviously your panels however you want. So we're going to add some other layers. And this is going to follow the basic comics drawing system. So I'm going to call the first layer sketch. I'm going to draw another layer and rename it pencil. Whoops, spelled it wrong. And I'm going to add another layer and rename it ink. So that way I can draw a sketch on one layer, pencils on one layer, inks on another layer. And that's the way a lot of comics artists do it. And we're going to use this technique for our first comic. And we're going to draw all of our sketch on one layer, all of our pencils on one layer, all of our inks on another layer. Later, we'll look at how to do like a layer group for each panel, which I do a lot. But for getting started, we're just going to draw a 4 or 6 panel comic. And we're going to use these layers. So, got my panels. I like to move that all the way to the top underneath the grid. And then the other layers I keep in the order that I made them. So these are the layers I like to have. Again, if you're going to make a lot of comics that are the same size and shape, you can stop now. You can even take the panels layer out and save your grid. Or you can erase the panels layer. So say I want to erase the layer. This is a neat trick. I want to erase this whole layer. I can just take my 3 fingers and go back and forth, and it will erase the whole layer. So if you just want to make a file with all these layers in it, with nothing drawn in it, and save it for making comics, you can do that. There's one other trick that I do that I will add one more layer to this. And I'm going to go to my sketch layer and I'm just going to draw some stuff on it. Okay. And so that was my sketch. Okay. Now, if I want to go to my pencil or ink layer and start penciling, that sketch is too bold. I can't draw on top of it like if I was going to do it with tracing paper or something. So what I'm going to do is when I have my sketch layer selected, I'm going to add one more layer. And then I like to pick this middle kind of cyan color, kind of not too bright red works good. You can play with this and pick whatever color you like. I generally use this middle kind of cyan turquoise color because it reminds me of the non-photo blue pencils. Okay. So what I did was I made a layer above the sketch layer. I picked this blue color. Uh-oh. Sorry. Give me a second. Sorry. Somebody tried to call me. Should turn my phone off when I do this.
Meanwhile, I put the zip file in the chat. So if somebody's
you.
it's
Thank
there.
you, Ashish. That's
You're
Ashish
welcome.
talking, right? Thank
Yes,
you.
it is. You're welcome.
Oh gosh. The camera wants to go vertical on the iPhone, so it's and if your phone does anything else, it switches to that. So the link for the layout is the zip files in the chat. So if anybody didn't get it, you can download it there. And it's a freebie. So okay. So it's free to share. The same guy who made it made a bunch of Procreate brushes too. Okay, so I made my sketch. I added a layer above it. I picked a lightish medium turquoise color. Now I'm going to click on the color up there and drag it and let go. And it's going to fill the whole layer because nothing was on that layer. So it filled that whole layer with that color. And now I'm going to go into the layer and click on the tiny N. And this gives us layer blend modes. We're going to go over that more as we go too. But right now we're going to scroll down 2 of them to screen. And you can see what happened when I went from normal to screen. Now only my sketch is showing up. And instead of being black, it's this light teal color. I can turn this layer on and off when I want to see my sketch in black again, but I can turn it on to this teal color or a light red or whatever color you like. And now I can go draw in my pencil layer. Whoops, I drew on the wrong layer. No, I didn't. I still had the teal. I have to check things a lot because I forget to change color back. I forget to change my brush. So that's why I really love undo. So now I have black. I have the pencil layer. I have my dry ink brush. I use it for penciling and for drawing, but there are a bunch of pencil brushes in Procreate in the sketching folder that you can mess with too. If you like something that works more like a pencil, you can pick something from the pencil group, but I'm going to stick to this one because I always use it for sketching. And now I want to like make my sketch over the top of this. And I can just draw something more or less good on top of it. I'm not the kind-
Donna,
Yes.
excuse me, the blending mode you used was screen, is that
Screen,
correct?
yes.
Okay,
Screen.
okay. So I had originally penciled in black. No, I penciled in blue. I
Oh,
chose
okay. Yeah, you
the
can
pencil and then
in
I did
blue.
that.
Mhm.
And so then I tried to test what you were saying. So I tried to put gold, kind of an ochre color on top of it. And so it did blend it, and I'm kind of getting a gray. So it
Yes.
is kind of, okay, got it.
If you
Okay.
didn't draw in black, then it will screen mode will do something else to your color. Yeah, and
Okay.
it turned it to match the color I used on mine because I sketched in black.
Okay, thank
So
you.
now, when I'm done with my pencils, so here's this one. Whoops. There's me drawing on the wrong layer again. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to lock this layer. I'm going to lock my sketch layer. I'm going to slide to the left and pick lock to lock it. And you can slide to the left and unlock it if you want. Now, say I'm done with my pencils. I can hide my sketch if I don't want to see it anymore. I can take this screen layer and I can move it above my pencils and then go to work on my inks. So I can use that layer to make everything underneath it. I can leave my sketch on or off with the pencils. Everything lower down than that layer will be changed by that screen layer. So we'll go into other things you can do with these layer blend modes when you click on the little letter. Now see what's happening here? I tried to click on the S and the little list of blend modes didn't come up. Why is that? Because this layer is locked, so it won't let you change that. So you have to unlock it. And now I can change the blend mode again. So if something's not, doing what you want on a layer, make sure you didn't lock it, because sometimes it will tell you, you can't do that because this layer is locked. So say I lock this layer now, I try to draw on it, it says your layer is locked. Okay, but if I try to change the layer blend mode, it doesn't tell me the layer is locked. It just doesn't bring that up when I click the S. And I'm like, why isn't it bringing it up? Because the layer is locked. Okay, so that's what I wanted to go over today. What I would like you guys to do, if you want to do homework, because no one gets in trouble if they don't, but is to use this grid, make a 4 or 6 panel layout for a comic and sketch something out in it. If you prefer to work on tiny thumbnails first, make your grid for your comic anyway, do your thumbnails, and then we'll come back next week and we'll either start with, in 2 weeks, sorry, we'll start with what you sketched, or if you didn't do a sketch and you just did thumbnails, I'll show you again how to take the thumbnails out and put them into your documents. So say, we're going to draw this page, we'll take this thumbnail out and put it into the document. So is that, everyone got that? I'll post a message with it too, what to do for next.
I got lost on the way. Will you post the recording?
Yeah, I will post the recording as well.
Great.
Yes, so you can
Thank you very much.
go back through that. Usually takes a day or two to get
Yeah,
between me getting it downloaded and send it over to Tom and all that.
but
But yeah,
that's
we
quick.
definitely
Yeah,
will. Mhm.
yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Have any questions before we wrap up?
No, it was excellent, Donna.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank
thanks,
you.
Donna. That was
Yeah,
great.
really
Thank you
good.
for
Thanks,
coming.
Donna.
Thank you for coming. This is really fun for me. I hope it's fun for you as well as interesting and useful. And we're going to go through several different ways to do a comic because everyone will have their favorite, something that works better for you. So this is the first one where we're just going to use those layers and draw a simple black and white comic. So this week you're going to draw your grid, your panels, and you're going to do some sketching on the sketch layer or make some thumbnails. We'll take it to the next step next time.
Great.
Randall,
Thanks.
you gonna
Got
do
it.
your thumbnails?
I got lost on how to copy the first square. I don't know how to copy the first square to move it over. So the problem for me was looking down at my iPad, then I don't see what you're doing up there.
Okay.
So I had
Um,
to stop looking at the iPad and only see what you're doing. But I missed that first duplicating the first square.
Okay,
in the
that's
thumbnail.
totally fine. That's why we record it, and you can, take the
Oh, I'll
recording,
work on it.
watch that part, pause it, and and get as far as you want. I mean, I'm not grading anybody. This is for fun and for you to get what you need out of it, and and
I
that's
can
fine.
definitely see how this is going to make my drawing better. I can see that. I
The
just have to
undo,
figure
right?
it out.
What I like, Donna, is that I think we're all coming to this with kind of a different path, but you're sort of going through it systematically so that the people who participate will be on the same page, so to speak. I like that a lot.
Right. Yeah. And like I said, we're going to look at two different methods because I tend to use groups of layers for each panel rather than one whole thing. But a lot of comic artists do this where they do all the sketching on one layer, all the pencils, all the inking, because it's more like traditional working on paper. So we do that first, and then we'll look at the other method, which is more complicated. So cool. I'll post the video and I'll talk to you guys online and see you here again in a couple weeks.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
Donna.
much.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.